You think a routine traffic stop is just another dull moment in a police officer's day, flashing lights, a driver's license check, maybe a warning, maybe a ticket. But sometimes, what looks ordinary on the surface hides a twist no one saw coming. That's exactly what happened the day two officers stopped a woman they thought was just a random lady, not realizing she was about to flip their entire world upside down. The morning had started like any other. Officer Daniels and Officer Carter were patrolling the downtown stretch, sipping lukewarm coffee from paper cups and half-joking about who would get stuck writing the next pile of reports. Traffic was steady, horns honking in the distance, a mix of business people rushing to work and teenagers darting through crosswalks with headphones in their ears. As the patrol car rolled to a slow crawl at an intersection, Daniels noticed a silver sedan ahead that didn't come to a full stop at the light before turning right. It wasn't reckless, but enough for a quick pullover. Daniels nudged Carter. "See that? Easy one. Let's make the stop," he said. The flashing red and blue lights ignited, cutting through the mid-morning haze. The silver sedan slowed, signaled politely, and pulled over to the curb with practiced precision. "Looks like she knows the drill," Carter muttered, grabbing the notepad from the dash. Daniels straightened his belt and stepped out of the car. As he approached, he noticed the driver's side window already rolling down. The woman behind the wheel didn't look panicked or irritated like most drivers. Instead, she sat calmly, hands resting on the steering wheel, her posture relaxed. "Good morning, ma'am," Daniels began, adopting the routine tone officers often used, half friendly, half authoritative. "Do you know why we pulled you over today?" The woman's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "I believe it might have been that turn back there," she replied, her voice steady and confident. Daniels blinked. Usually, people stumbled over their words, eager to defend themselves or deny everything. But this woman's composure was unusual. "That's right," he said, trying not to let her poise throw him off. "May I see your license and registration, please?" She nodded, moving deliberately, first reaching for her bag, then carefully pulling out a leather wallet. She handed over her driver's license with a calm expression. Daniels glanced at the name but didn't process it immediately. He was too busy noting how calm she was, like someone used to being in control. Meanwhile, Carter strolled up on the passenger side. He leaned slightly toward the window, peering inside. "Morning," he greeted, his tone casual but slightly cocky. "Heading somewhere important today?" The woman met his eyes briefly, then replied with the same calm smile. "You could say that." Daniels raised an eyebrow. Something about her presence felt different. Not threatening, but commanding. Most people fidgeted under scrutiny. She didn't. She was the kind of person who could sit across from a panel of judges and never flinch. Back at the patrol car, Daniels handed the license to Carter. "Run it," he said. Carter tapped at the onboard computer, but the system froze for a moment, spinning its wheel like it always did on busy mornings. "This thing's slower than molasses," Carter grumbled. While they waited, Daniels glanced back at the woman. She was still sitting calmly, tapping her fingers on the steering wheel in a rhythm that suggested patience, not frustration. That, more than anything, unsettled him. "She acts like she owns the street," Carter remarked, shaking his head. "What's her deal?" Daniels shrugged. "Some people think they're untouchable." But deep down, he wasn't so sure. There was something different here. He couldn't put his finger on it, but his instincts told him this wasn't just another routine stop. Finally, the system beeped. Carter squinted at the screen. "Well, look at this," he murmured. "Clean record. Not even a parking ticket." Daniels frowned. That wasn't what he expected. Most people who rolled through lights like that had at least a slap-on-the-wrist history. "All right," Daniels muttered. "Let's go wrap this up." As they walked back toward the sedan, Carter whispered with a smirk, "I'll bet she thinks we're wasting her time. Probably some office manager on her way to a meeting." Daniels chuckled. "Or someone who just doesn't care about rules." But as they reached the car, the woman rolled down her window further, her smile still steady. Is everything all right, officers? She asked smoothly. Daniels opened his mouth to respond, but something in her tone made him pause. It wasn't a question born out of nervousness. It was a question of someone who already knew the answer. The routine stop had just taken a strange turn, one that neither officer was prepared for. A routine traffic stop usually ends in one of two ways, a warning or a ticket. But as Officer Daniels stood by the silver sedan, something gnawed at him. The woman behind the wheel wasn't reacting like a normal driver. No nervous glances. No muttered apologies. No anxious tapping of the foot. Instead, she was composed, calm, almost amused. Daniels cleared his throat. Everything checks out clean, he said, handing her license back. You'll need to be more careful at that intersection. Of course, she replied, her voice warm yet steady. She slipped the license back into her wallet with deliberate grace. Carter leaned on the passenger side window, arms folded across his chest. You drive through here often? He asked, trying to sound casual, but his tone carried an edge of curiosity. The woman's eyes flicked toward him, sharp but not unfriendly. I suppose I'll be making the trip more frequently from now on, she said cryptically. Daniels and Carter exchanged a glance. Something about that answer felt layered. Carter smirked, whispering just loud enough for his partner to hear, she talks like she's giving a press conference. Daniels almost laughed, but stopped himself. Ma'am, do you mind telling us where you're headed? He asked, keeping his tone polite but firm. The woman didn't hesitate. City Hall, she answered. Then, as if sensing their unspoken questions, she added, it's an important morning. Daniels nodded slowly. City Hall wasn't unusual, people went there for permits, hearings, or endless red tape. Still, her delivery was odd. Like she wasn't going there to wait in line at a counter. Like she was expected. Important morning, huh? Carter pressed, raising an eyebrow. What's waiting for you over there? The woman smiled, calm, unshaken. You'll find out soon enough. That response set Daniels on edge. He shifted his weight, suddenly aware that this wasn't the simple stop he thought it was. He studied her again, professional clothes, neat posture, the kind of confidence you usually saw in people who walked into boardrooms, not traffic court. Carter, less patient, gave a low chuckle. She thinks she runs the place, huh? He muttered under his breath, not realizing she could hear. The woman's smile widened ever so slightly, but she didn't reply. Daniel shot his partner a sharp look. Cut it out, he whispered. But inside, he couldn't deny Carter had a point. She did act like she was in charge, and for some reason, it bothered him more than it should. The city's mid-morning bustle moved around them, cars honking in the distance, a delivery truck double-parked across the street, pedestrians weaving around the patrol cars' flashing lights. Yet in that moment, the small triangle of space between the officers and the woman felt heavy with unspoken tension. Daniels adjusted his stance. Ma'am, you seem very calm for someone being pulled over, he said, half joking, half serious. Her gaze lifted to meet his directly. Experience, she replied. Experience? Daniels repeated. Yes. Her tone was even, unshakable. I've dealt with officers before. Carter let out a snort. I bet you have. Daniels shot him another warning glance, but he couldn't stop the uneasy twist in his stomach. Most drivers treated traffic stops like a nuisance, or worse, a confrontation. But this woman? She treated it like a formality. Like she already knew the script better than they did. The silence stretched, broken only by the hum of the patrol car's engine. Daniels finally said, All right, ma'am. Since your record is clean, we're going to let you off with a warning. Just make sure to stop fully next time. The woman accepted his words with a polite nod. But before she rolled up her window, she added softly, You'll see me again sooner than you think. Daniels froze. The words weren't threatening, but they carried weight. He wasn't sure if she meant them literally, or if it was just another strange remark meant to throw them off. As the sedan pulled back into traffic and disappeared into the flow of cars, Carter blew out a frustrated sigh. Well, that was weird. Daniels remained silent, eyes fixed on the spot where the car had been. Something about her voice, her certainty, lingered in his mind. Weird, he finally said. Try unsettling. Who talks like that? Carter shrugged. Probably just some big-shot attorney. They all act like they own the world. But Daniels wasn't convinced. Attorneys might act confident, but this woman hadn't just acted confident, she radiated authority. He couldn't shake the feeling that he hadn't just pulled over some random lady. And deep down, though he didn't want to admit it yet, he suspected the morning was far from over. Some encounters fade the moment they're over. This one refused to leave Officer Daniels' mind. As their patrol car merged back into the traffic stream, the silver sedan's taillights vanished, but the weight of that strange exchange clung to him. Carter leaned back in his seat, tossing the notepad onto the dash. Well, that was a waste of time. No ticket, no drama, just another cocky driver on her way to a fancy meeting. Daniels didn't respond right away. His grip on the steering wheel tightened. You didn't find her different? Different how? Carter asked. Daniels searched for the words. I don't know. The way she spoke. Like she knew something we didn't. Like she was holding the upper hand. Carter laughed. You're overthinking. She's probably a lawyer or some corporate type. You know how they are, confident, arrogant, never rattled. I've dealt with hundreds of them. But Daniels wasn't so sure. He'd dealt with plenty of lawyers, plenty of arrogant drivers too. This wasn't arrogance. This was composure. Controlled, measured, deliberate. The kind of poise you only saw in people used to commanding respect. The radio crackled, jolting them out of the silence. Dispatch called them to circle the downtown loop before checking in at the precinct. Daniels flicked the switch. Copy that, he replied, his voice flat. The patrol car drifted past brick buildings and coffee shops, pedestrians hustling across crosswalks. Yet the hum of the city felt distant to Daniels. His mind kept circling back to the woman's words, "You'll see me again sooner than you think." Carter broke the silence. You think she was flirting with you? He teased. Daniels shot him a glare. Don't be stupid. Then what? Some kind of riddle? Carter smirked. Come on, man. Not every driver's a mystery. Daniels stayed quiet, but deep inside, unease gnawed at him. By the time they pulled into the precinct parking lot, the silver sedan was still haunting him. He tried to shake it off, but fate wasn't ready to let him. As the officers walked through the lobby doors, they noticed a buzz of activity. Uniformed officers stood clustered near the main hallway, whispering and adjusting their ties. A podium had been set up, the city's flag and police department banner flanking it. What's this? Carter asked, raising an eyebrow. Daniels frowned. Looks like some kind of announcement. Before he could ask, Sergeant Miller hurried past, his usually gruff face uncharacteristically tense. Line up, gentlemen. We've got a big one today. Carter rolled his eyes. Great. Another speech from the brass. But Daniels felt his pulse quicken. The words big one sent a chill through him. They joined the other officers in the crowded hall, standing shoulder to shoulder. The chatter was low but buzzing, rumors of a leadership change, whispers about a new chief being sworn in. Carter leaned close. Guess that explains the suits and banners. New boss coming in. Daniel's heart skipped. New chief? Before he could ask questions, the chatter died. The mayor's aide stepped to the podium, tapping the microphone. His voice rang out, "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning. Today marks a new chapter for our department. We are honored to welcome our newly appointed chief of police." Daniels stiffened. His mind raced back to the silver sedan, the woman's calm smile, her strange confidence. No. It couldn't be. Carter muttered under his breath, Bet it's some old guy from another city. Retired, brought in to whip us into shape." The aide smiled. "Please join me in welcoming Chief Alexandra Hayes." Daniel's breath caught in his throat. From the side corridor, the very same woman they had pulled over just minutes ago stepped into view. Dressed sharply, her presence commanding, she strode toward the podium with the same quiet confidence she had shown on the roadside. Carter's jaw dropped. "You've got to be kidding me." Daniels felt his stomach twist. The silver sedan. The cryptic words. The composure. It all made sense now. She wasn't just a random lady. She was the boss. Their boss. And she had let them walk straight into the most awkward moment of their careers. The applause erupted as the woman in the sharp navy suit stepped up to the podium. Her stride was steady, her chin lifted, and her eyes scanned the crowd of uniformed officers with the calm authority of someone who had already taken charge, even before she spoke a word. Officer Daniels felt his pulse hammering in his ears. Beside him, Carter stood stiff, his mouth still slightly open as though his brain hadn't caught up to what his eyes were seeing. That's her," Carter whispered harshly. "That's the woman we just stopped." Daniels didn't reply. His throat was dry. The mayor's aide leaned toward the microphone. "Please welcome your new chief of police, Chief Alexandra Hayes." Chief Hayes placed both hands lightly on the podium, waiting for the clapping to settle. When the room finally quieted, her voice filled the hall, clear, steady, and commanding. "Good morning. It's an honor to stand before you as the new chief of this department. I know stepping into this role means I inherit both great responsibility and great expectations. Together, we will meet them." Daniels tried to focus on her words, but every syllable twisted the knot in his stomach tighter. Less than an hour ago, he had spoken to her like she was just another driver. Carter had leaned into her window, smirking, questioning her tone. And she had let them. She had sat there calmly, watching them dig their own hole. Hayes continued. "Law enforcement is not just about enforcing rules. It is about earning the trust of the people we serve, through respect, professionalism, and fairness. Every interaction matters. Even the ones we think are small or routine." Daniels felt his face flush. Was she talking about them? No, this was a general speech. But still, the words cut close, too close. Carter muttered under his breath, "She's talking about us. She has to be." Daniels swallowed hard, forcing himself to stay still, hoping no one noticed his unease. Hayes paused, her eyes sweeping across the rows of officers. For a fleeting moment, they landed directly on Daniels and Carter. Her gaze didn't linger, but it was enough. Daniels' chest tightened. She knew. Then she smiled slightly, the same calm, faint smile she had given behind the wheel of that silver sedan. "Some of you have already met me," Hayes said smoothly, her tone layered with meaning. "I look forward to working with each and every one of you in the days to come." Carter shifted uncomfortably, his usual bravado cracking. "She's toying with us," he hissed, almost panicked. Daniels barely heard him. His mind replayed every second of that traffic stop, the way she handed over her license without flinching, the way she said they'd see her again soon. He thought it had been arrogance. It hadn't been. It had been fact. Applause broke out again as Hayes concluded her opening remarks. The mayor stepped up to shake her hand. Cameras flashed, capturing the official moment. Officers around the room straightened their uniforms, eager to impress the new chief. Daniels and Carter, meanwhile, stood frozen in the back row, praying no one would remember the silver sedan. But fate wasn't about to let them slip away unnoticed. After the speeches ended, Chief Hayes stepped down from the podium and began mingling with the officers. She moved gracefully through the crowd, shaking hands, exchanging greetings. Slowly, inevitably, she made her way toward the back of the room. Daniel's heart pounded louder with each step she took. "Maybe she won't recognize us," Carter muttered, though his voice betrayed zero confidence. Daniel shot him a look. She recognized us the second she walked in. Finally, Hayes reached them. She extended her hand first to Daniels, then to Carter. Her grip was firm, professional, but her eyes held that same quiet amusement. "Officers," she greeted warmly. "Good to see you again, so soon." Daniels swallowed, forcing himself to return the handshake. "Yes, ma'am. Welcome aboard." Carter stammered, "We, didn't know." Hayes' smile widened just a fraction. "That's the point, isn't it?" she interrupted gently. "You never know who you're speaking to. Which is why respect should always come first." Daniels felt his stomach twist again. She wasn't scolding them, not outright, but the lesson was clear, sharp as glass. "Don't worry," Hayes added softly, lowering her voice so only they could hear. "I don't hold grudges. I prefer to let actions speak louder than words. You'll both have plenty of chances to show me what kind of officers you are." With that, she released their hands and moved on, leaving Daniels and Carter standing stiff as statues. Carter exhaled shakily. "Well, we're screwed." Daniels didn't answer. He couldn't. All he could think was that the random lady they had stopped was now their chief, and she had just set the tone for every day to come. The ceremony ended with polite applause, a few photos, and the sound of chairs scraping against the tiled floor. Officers began dispersing, shaking hands and murmuring about their new boss. For most, the morning was exciting, a fresh start, a change in leadership, a chance to impress. For Daniels and Carter, it felt like a noose tightening. They walked down the hallway side by side, their boots heavy against the linoleum. Neither spoke at first. The silence between them was thicker than the air. Finally, Carter broke it. "She knew. The whole time. She knew we didn't recognize her and just let us dig our own graves." Daniels clenched his jaw. "She didn't embarrass us publicly. That counts for something." Carter let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, right. You heard her, respect should always come first." That was aimed right at me. Daniels said nothing. He remembered her calm eyes, her faint smile, her subtle warning. Respect first. It echoed in his head like a drumbeat. They pushed through the glass doors into the parking lot. The sun was higher now, bouncing heat off the patrol cars lined up in rows. Carter stopped beside their cruiser, rubbing the back of his neck. "Man, we're dead," he muttered. "New chief, first day, and we're already on her radar. She's gonna make our lives miserable." Daniels leaned against the car, staring at the asphalt. "Or maybe she's testing us." "Testing us?" Carter shot him a look. "You think that was some kind of audition? Like she staged the whole stop?" Daniels shook his head. "No. But she was paying attention. To how we handled her. To how we handle people in general." Carter groaned. "Well, then we failed. Big time." Daniels didn't disagree. He thought about how quickly Carter had leaned on the window, how casually he had joked about her attitude, how he himself had brushed off the unease instead of listening to his instincts. He hadn't been outright rude, but he hadn't been respectful either. Neutral at best. "Maybe we can fix it," Daniels said quietly. "Fix it?" Carter repeated. "How do you fix ticking off your boss before you even know she's your boss?" Daniels shrugged. "By proving we're better than she thinks. By keeping our heads down, doing the job right, and not screwing up." Carter gave a hollow laugh. "Easier said than done. You know how many stops we make in a week? Sooner or later, I'm bound to open my mouth again." Daniels cracked the faintest of smiles. "Then keep it shut for once." Carter scowled, but didn't argue. They climbed back into the patrol car. The engine rumbled to life, but neither man moved to pull out. They sat there, the tension coiling tighter. Through the windshield, they saw Chief Hayes exit the building. She was flanked by a few senior officers, all eager to shake her hand, to introduce themselves. She carried herself with the same calm authority, her expression unreadable but commanding. Carter ducked slightly in his seat. Don't look. Don't make eye contact. Daniels smirked despite himself. She's not a wild animal, Carter. She's our chief. Exactly, Carter muttered. Which means she holds our careers in her hands. Hayes glanced across the lot briefly, her gaze sweeping over the rows of vehicles. For half a second, Daniels thought her eyes landed directly on their cruiser. His stomach clenched. But then she looked away, stepping into her waiting car. The black SUV pulled out smoothly, leaving the lot. Only then did Daniels exhale. Carter slammed his palms on the steering wheel. This is torture. She didn't say a word, and I feel like I've been sentenced already. Daniels leaned back in his seat. That's her style. She doesn't need to yell. She makes you feel it without saying much. Carter let out a long breath. So what now? Daniels started to drive, eyes fixed on the road ahead. Now, we work. We keep our heads down, stay professional, and hope she gives us a chance to prove ourselves. But deep down, Daniels knew it wasn't just about proving themselves to Chief Hayes. It was about proving something bigger, that they could rise above their own mistakes, that they could grow. The silence settled again as they cruised down the street, lights glinting off shop windows and car hoods. But this silence wasn't just awkward anymore. It was heavy with the weight of something new, expectation. Chief Hayes had drawn a line. Respect first. And Daniels knew, one way or another, she would be watching to see if they lived up to it. The next morning, the precinct buzzed with unusual energy. Word had already spread about Chief Hayes, her sharp demeanor, her polished background, her reputation for turning struggling departments into disciplined, respected forces. Everyone wanted to make a good impression. Everyone wanted to be on her good side. Everyone except Officers Daniels and Carter, who were just hoping to avoid her. They sat at their desks in the corner of the bullpen, half hiding behind stacks of paperwork. Carter whispered, "If we stay out of sight, maybe she'll forget about yesterday." Daniels shook his head. "She's the chief. Chiefs don't forget." As if on cue, the bullpen doors swung open. Conversations died instantly. Chief Hayes entered, her heels clicking sharply against the floor, her expression calm but commanding. Officers straightened in their chairs, some even rising to attention. She scanned the room, then said simply, "Conference room." Now. Like a tide, the entire shift of officers filed into the glass-walled room. Daniels' pulse quickened. He and Carter tried to blend into the crowd, but he had the sinking feeling she could see right through them. Hayes waited until every seat was filled, then stood at the head of the table. She didn't raise her voice, yet the room was silent, her authority filling every corner. "Yesterday, I spoke about respect," she began, her eyes moving slowly across the room. "Respect is not just for the citizens who look like they deserve it. It's not just for the ones who are polite, or wealthy, or important. Respect is for everyone, every single person you meet on this job. Because you never truly know who they are." Daniels felt Carter shift uncomfortably beside him. Hayes continued. "This department has had complaints. Small ones, large ones. People saying officers treated them with arrogance. With impatience. With judgment. That ends now." Her gaze swept the room again, and this time, it lingered for a heartbeat on Daniels and Carter. Daniels' throat tightened. "I'm not interested in excuses," Hayes said firmly. "I'm interested in results. Every stop, every call, every encounter, it matters. How you treat one person tells the world how you'll treat them all." She let the words hang in the air. No one spoke. Then she gestured toward a stack of folders on the table. "Inside, you'll find reports of minor complaints filed this year. Nothing catastrophic, just examples of poor communication, unnecessary escalation, officers forgetting the power their badge represents." Daniels opened the folder reluctantly. Inside were written complaints, citizens describing moments when they felt belittled or dismissed. He felt a pang of shame. Some of the words echoed his own tone from countless stops. Hayes spoke again, steady and sharp. We will learn from these. Not to shame, but to improve. We cannot demand respect from the public if we fail to give it in return. Carter leaned toward Daniels, whispering, "This is about us. She's aiming this straight at us." Daniels whispered back, "She's aiming it at everyone. But yeah, especially us." Hayes clapped the folder shut in front of her. "Starting today, every officer here will treat every person with the same level of professionalism you would show me, or the mayor, or your own family. Because you never know who's sitting behind that wheel, or standing on that corner, or calling for help." Her tone softened slightly, though her authority didn't waver. "Respect first. Always. That's the new standard." Silence stretched in the room again. Daniel's chest felt heavy, but not just with dread this time. With something else, realization. Yesterday's stop hadn't been a humiliation. It had been a mirror, showing him the gaps in how he carried himself. Hayes closed her folder, signaling the meeting's end. Dismissed. Chairs scraped back as officers filed out. Carter muttered under his breath, "Respect, respect, respect, sounds easy until some hothead gives you attitude." Daniels glanced at him, his voice low but firm. "Maybe that's the point. If we can't handle it with respect, then what good are we?" Carter didn't reply. As they left the room, Daniels glanced back at Hayes. She wasn't watching him directly, but he knew she was aware. She had drawn the line. And now, it was on him and Carter to decide which side of it they would stand on. For the first time, Daniels wasn't just nervous about the new chief. He was determined not to disappoint her. 2 weeks had passed since Chief Hayes' first day, and the precinct was already different. The atmosphere was sharper, more disciplined. Officers held themselves straighter, conversations carried less cynicism, and there was an unspoken awareness that the new chief wasn't someone you wanted to disappoint. For Daniels, the change ran deeper than appearances. That morning at roll call, when Hayes reminded the team that every stop is an opportunity to build trust, he found himself nodding instead of rolling his eyes. Even Carter, though he grumbled now and then, had stopped making jokes during traffic stops. But fate wasn't quite done with them yet. It was late afternoon when dispatch sent Daniels and Carter out to patrol the east side of town. The day had been uneventful, just a noise complaint, a false alarm, and an elderly man who needed help changing a flat tire. Carter was restless, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel as they cruised down a quiet suburban street. Then they saw it, a silver sedan. The same make, same color, same confident hum. Carter's eyes widened. No way. Not again. Daniels squinted, his stomach tightening. The car rolled smoothly through a stop sign before signaling late for a right turn. Technically, a violation. You thinking what I'm thinking? Carter asked, half grinning. Daniels hesitated. Every instinct told him to let it go. But another part of him, the part that remembered Hayes' speech, her calm authority, her piercing gaze, wondered if this was another test. He sighed. Light her up. The patrol car's red and blue lights flared. The silver sedan slowed, pulled to the curb, and stopped. Daniel's heart pounded as he stepped out. He motioned for Carter to follow. Together, they approached the driver's side window, déjà vu thick in the air. The window rolled down. Chief Hayes looked up at them with the faintest trace of amusement in her eyes. Officers. Daniels nearly choked on his own words. Chief! We. Carter blurted, we weren't gonna stop you. Well, we were, but only because of the stop sign. Hayes tilted her head, lips curling in the smallest of smiles. Relax. I know what I did. Testing your consistency, that's all. Daniels blinked. Wait, you did it on purpose? Hayes leaned back in her seat. Of course. You think I don't know what it feels like to be on the other side of those lights? I wanted to see if my lesson stuck. Carter muttered, oh, it stuck. Like glue. Hayes studied them both, then said evenly, "Well, are you going to issue me a citation, or just stand there sweating?" Daniels swallowed hard. He felt the weight of the moment, her words in the conference room, her call for fairness, her demand for respect. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his notepad, and with a steady voice said, "Chief Hayes, you rolled a stop sign. That's a moving violation. By law, I have to write you up." Carter's head snapped toward him. "Are you insane? You're gonna ticket the chief?" But Hayes didn't flinch. In fact, her eyes gleamed with approval. "Good," she said. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear." Daniels froze, pen hovering above the page. "You mean?" She gave a short nod. "Equal treatment. No exceptions. If I can't be held accountable, then why should anyone else? That's how trust is built." Carter groaned. "You're seriously making us write our boss a ticket?" Hayes' smile widened, the first genuine one Daniels had seen from her. "Think of it as practice. Besides, I'll pay it." Daniels scribbled the citation, hands trembling but steady enough to finish. He tore it off and handed it to her. Hayes glanced at it, folded it neatly, and tucked it into her purse. "Well done. Now, get back to work. And next time, remember, treat everyone like they're me." She rolled the window up and drove off, the silver sedan gliding smoothly down the street. Carter stood frozen on the curb, jaw slack. "We just gave our chief a ticket." Daniels exhaled, the tension finally breaking. A laugh bubbled up, surprising even him. "Yeah. And I think she respected us for it." Carter shook his head, still stunned. Then he cracked a grin. "Man, only us. Only we could stop the chief, twice." As they got back in the patrol car, Carter muttered, "Bet she's gonna frame that ticket on our office wall." Daniels chuckled, starting the engine. "Good. That way, we'll never forget who we're dealing with." They drove off, the sun sinking low on the horizon, the silver sedan already gone, but the lesson lingering, etched into both of them forever.